As a leader, you're expected to make high stakes decisions. But what happens when you're not an expert in the topic at hand? Welcome to What Leaders Need to Know, the show that helps you uncover hidden blind spots, ask the right questions, and think like an expert without becoming one. I'm Todd Genetasio, and in every episode, I bring you world class expertise to simplify complex topics, break down decision making frameworks, and give you the clarity that you need to lead with confidence. I'm super excited about my guest today because we have quite the multi-dimensional relationship. Lisa is here. She started off as one of my coaches, then she became a client of mine, and now I'm just grateful to call her a friend. She is really an amazing person to work with and to be around, and to just hear her perspective and insights on things that's really going to change the way you think about leading your business. Officially, she is a transformational leader and master life coach who guides high performing business leaders to break free from the relentless pursuit of more. I can rattle on and on about how amazing she is and all the work she does, but she really just helps high performers break out of that, like more is, more for the sake of more and pushing just to push and getting out of that whole stressful, old school growth at all costs hustle grind mentality that it does take to start some things, but at some point you got to let that go. And she's amazing at helping people do so. And we've been chatting for a half hour before we started the episode, so you guys are going to get a lot of bonus content out of that. But Lisa, welcome to the show here. Thank you so much. I'm super grateful to have you on. You've been on quite the journey over the last couple years, all around the world, learning about different cultures and immersing yourself in different places that I'm sure you'll touch on also. But talk to me about the type of people that you're working with and what you're helping them do.
Well, first of all, Todd, thanks for having me on. We have had quite a journey. We have had quite a journey together. And I'm grateful that you're in my life and I've gotten to know you and your work. And I'm grateful to be invited on the show and have this conversation. So, yeah, I help my clients stop the pursuit of constant more. And it doesn't mean that you can't want to have more, but it's about weaving in the piece about fulfillment because so often we're chasing more, thinking that more is going to make us feel a certain way, only to get there. And I always joke that I work with people that are way more successful than me, who created this amazing life for themselves. Yet they're looking around going, but why don't I feel the way I thought I would feel? Like, where's the fulfillment? Where's the ease? Where's the peace? Where's the fun? Where's the joy? And so it's working with these high achievers, these, highly responsible go-to people who are looking to start to put down things in their life, but they're really unsure of how or where to even start to do that because all they know is doing and pushing and achieving and success and all the things. So, and that's ultimately not what life is all about, right? It ends
Yeah.
up being a little bit empty in the long run.
Yeah. And what's interesting too, I hadn't thought about this, but I have, multiple friends who are at this stage of business where they have grown to the point, which is the whole goal of starting a business, is to kind of grow yourself out of the business, quote unquote, right? Like where, you don't have to be in the day to day of everything all the time. But then all of a sudden they've lost their identity because that's who they were for 7 years or 12 years of building this up. But now they've got a great team. They've got a great executive team that can handle the team. And that's what a lot of new entrepreneurs dream of, the position of being. But then they find themselves in like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do now? I'm useless to the business, quote unquote. Like, and they lose this fulfillment that they were getting from building something, but they got to where they wanted to be.
So I think there's a more important conversation there because I believe that most successful businesses and successful entrepreneurs are built on the backs of deep emotional wounds that they've been carrying their whole lives, right? Like there's a reason that we're overdoers, high functioners, chasing achievement. But most of us never pause to look at what's causing this behavior in me because not everybody's built this way. So there's some people that flip into their like victim mode, right? They
Mhm.
become in this, they work from this place of like learned helplessness. And then there's the others of us that are on the other side of the coin that are constantly and relentlessly in pursuit of this more. But both people are working from wounded places. It's just that the side of achievement gets celebrated more. So when suddenly you've achieved all the things, that empty hole that you were working from isn't suddenly filled up. Like It just means that the wound is exposed again because now you've wrapped your identity up in all the doing and what you've achieved. And that truly is when the work starts, when you recognize, oh, that thing that I've been looking for my whole life, it was actually never about building the business or the money in the bank or the perfect house or the yachts or whatever it is. It's who am I? Who am I without all this stuff? So the success actually opens the door for a lot of these leaders to do the deeper work towards finding fulfillment because life really isn't about what you can achieve. I mean, it's cool to achieve things. I'm like a big, I love big goals. I have like big audacious dreams as well. And I've had my ass handed to me enough time to know that what it is I'm actually looking for is not going to be on the other side of that dream. That dream is just like a bonus part of how I get to experience life. But it's up to me to really explore who I am without any of that stuff. So,
I think that, that that little line that you said there at the end about like how you get to experience life. And I think it even goes back to the other things that people aren't thinking of is like, how are you defining your success? And like we just talked about, like, what does going pro look like? And in today's world, there's a lot of different ways that you can achieve the goals that used to maybe only have one path to success or a couple paths, but now there's a million different ways to do a million different things. And we get to define what success can look like and what going pro can look like to get there. And oftentimes, like, we start off almost like kind of blind of, okay, I want success, and that generally feels like we got to work really hard to build something that's, makes a lot of money or has a lot of cool things. And then you just kind of forget to redefine what success looks like once you actually get started in the weeds. And it's like, oh, I actually, what success is for me. I get to pick my kids up from school every day. I get to coach their sports teams. I get to, be at dinner every night. I get to do this stuff with my family on the weekends, or, like whatever that looks like for different people. That it doesn't have to be more, but it's like, okay, here's the point where I have to get to, and then I can make a decision to start doing something slightly different, or make a different balance in my life, or do something totally on the, in a different direction.
right. So, one of the things about achievement driven people is as soon as they get close to the bar they've set for themselves, they raise it again. So their definition of success and how they're measuring it, it's something they're constantly chasing. And more often than not, they never actually allow themselves to feel successful. So there's a version of me that would be looking at me and my life and my business today with her jaw on the floor.
Yeah.
Yet the version of me today is like, yeah, but look at what else is possible.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly redefining what success means for me because, you know, things happen in life. Like I talk about, you've heard me say this, life is going to life.
Hmm.
And when life lifes you hard, it really forces you to redefine like what is most important to me. Money in the bank is great, gives you a lot of freedom. I'm very grateful for what I built in my business. But when push came to shove, the money in my bank didn't really matter. It gave me freedom, it gave me choice. But ultimately, it didn't save me from life lifing me. And if I had been attached to that money in the bank, always having to be at a certain set point for me to be successful, I would have missed out on having the experiences that I had last year traveling the world because I would have been terrified to give up that success. But instead, I used my money as we're supposed to, like we build wealth so that we can actually, experience our lives, and went out and just didn't worry about my business too much last year, let it run, let the success that I had built fuel a different area of success in my life, which was all about travel, doing things that I'd always wanted to do in my life. But it was that when this happens, then I'll get to do that, until I was pushed off the cliff and realized I had no excuse to not go do it. Money was in the bank. Let's go see the world. But it did force me into this place of really looking at like, how do I want to define success for me now? What do I want to achieve? And I'll never forget, I had a coach once say to me, Lisa, you can have $1 million or you can have $1 million business, right? You can have both. She's like, but don't think you have to grow $1 million business in order to have $1 million. And you always get to determine what you want your lifestyle to look like. So for me personally, success for me isn't about having a $10 million business. And some coach might say to me, well, you're limiting your mindset. I get to choose what feels good for me, my capacity, my time, my energy, the things that matter most to me. And the things that matter most to me aren't always the number of dollars in the bank account. That's all fine and dandy, but the other things in life to me often trump that. So it's really important for everybody listening as leaders. When was the last time you sat back and evaluated what are your values? What is really driving you? What is most important in your life? And are you measuring your success against your values? Are you chasing your values? Or are you chasing an idea of success that isn't even your own? Right? So that $10 million business dream, that's not my dream. That's somebody on the interwebs telling me I should want that. But that's not actually my dream. When I look at my values, my business and my success is built around me living in alignment with my values inside my business and outside of my business.
That's
Makes
an
sense?
incredible. Yeah, that's totally amazing. And I think, what's super interesting about values also, which I've learned, and we've gone through these exercises together of determining what values do you really have when you sit down and have to prioritize them, and what is most important. And a lot of people don't really do that. And I think that's a first part of like becoming self-aware on how should you define success that's going to make you feel fulfilled. And it's, based on what your values are. And, you know, everyone has different values and prioritizes the values differently. And that's a great way to get started. And something that we were spitballing before we started the episode on what to talk about was you mentioned this concept of, you know, before you can really successfully lead a team and a company and an industry, a very important thing that you need to do is be able to lead yourself first. And so can you talk about like what exactly is self leadership and what does that look like?
So, coming back to what you just said about success and values and understanding your values, right? I would ask your listeners to ask themselves the question is, what is it about success that you value? Are you clear on that? Are you clear on that? Because leading yourself is about a willingness to know who you are and what you value and make decisions based on those values. It's a willingness to look at, we'll call it the dark side. We all have a dark side. The parts of you that you know are potentially getting in the way, whether it's wanting to make everybody on your team happy, being fearful of letting go of control because only you can do it as good as you can, which how can you lead a team if you're not willing to lead yourself, if you're not willing to trust other people? Um, looking at like, what is it in you that is wanting to achieve? What are you wanting on the other side of that? Have you actually even checked in, or have you been so busy doing all the work with your head down that you've never even looked up to say, like, do I want this? Do I still want this? Or am I just doing this because I'm trying to prove my worth to somebody, or I'm trying to prove my worth to myself, or I'm trying to stand out to my friends and look a certain way? So self-leadership is the willingness to actually do the deep dive into you. It's less about your business strategy, because I believe that the more you know yourself and the more you unpack the things that are going on for you, the human in the business, the more your business will grow. And that's why, I've had people say to me, are you a business coach? And I'm like, well, I wouldn't call myself a business coach. However, the work that I do with my clients, the deep dive I take them on, radically transforms how they show up in their business, how they look at their money, how they look at their relationship with their employees, how they lead, because now they're looking more deeply at, wait a minute, what's my role in this? When I change, everything around me changes versus most people go into business and they're trying to, work on the circumstances. If I had a better marketing plan, if I had a better this, if I had a better that, then my business would grow, not recognizing they are at the center of their business. And unless they grow, unless they see past the things that they've been unwilling to see, their business will never reach the level that it could potentially get to because they will be the roadblock.
And I think, going through stages of business and becoming a certain person or identity that you are labeled as, even labeling yourself as when you start the business and start growing and hiring and building, and you become that type of person. But like what you just described and what I want to tell the people watching and listening is that you have permission to change what your identity is when it no longer aligns with you. And it is going to be uncomfortable to sit down and do the stuff that we're talking about here because it's going to mean becoming a different person, right? And but it's okay for that to happen, and in order for you to start feeling the fulfillment of success that like you said before, you almost get there and then you raise the bar again. So you never fully feel that success, that you don't fully feel the success that you're chasing after. But then
Right.
it actually, what's happening there is also a part of you is not feeling worthy of success, maybe. And so
Sure.
that's why you keep pushing it, right? Or if you, or, well, if I achieve success, then I am going to have to, then I don't have to keep pushing for more and more and more anymore. And who am I if I'm not pushing for more and more and more? And so this is your permission to be able to change and recognize who you want to be now, today, and tomorrow, and adjust those things that, hey, congratulations, you've built your business to a certain point, and now you're allowed to change the rules of that game and what the constraints are on it based on, back to, I loved your kind of definition of success before, the definition of your own success against the values that you want to live.
That's right. So I have a client who I've been working with for years, and she is legit one of the smartest women I know, right? She's in finance. So she's moving around millions of dollars and she's a partner in a company. And part of our work together was to move her from this mindset because she came into the business under her mentor, right? So her boss became her partner. So we had to work through the shift in identity from going from feeling like an employee or a mentee to you're now a partner, right? And growing her into that identity of like, oh, I'm running this firm with my partner. And now her partner is getting to the stage where he's going to retire or leave the business. He's one of those people that will probably, he'll end his, he'll just kind of finish on his death. Like he's
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
generation that he's just going to work until he dies, which, God love that generation.
Yeah.
That's what he loves. So now it's transitioning into the mindset and the identity of like, what does it look to step into your leadership at a next level? Like, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to show up for your employees? What is this going to look like for you? So she's had to go through all these massive identity shifts. And like I said, this is a high level leader who is just a regular human. And she's got her own insecurities and like, can I do this? Do I want to do this? What about my kids? What about my life? And seeing the things that she's attached to that are going to need to fall away or soften back in order for her to step into this next role. And also for her getting clear on how does she want to define success. And just because um, her business partner wants to work until, he drops dead, she doesn't have to run her business or the business from the same values as him. So even like letting go of how he's grown the business, because it started long before her, into can I hold the identity of somebody that can take what's already been built, but create my own version of it, even if it looks radically different from where it started. And this is the messy stuff, but this is going to be what sets her up ultimately for massive success, where she only wants to work 3 days a week. Great. Let's set that up. Who are you going to need to hire? What needs to go into, what things do we need to put in motion today to set you up for 5 years from now, right? So she's growing into that identity. So this is why, that identity piece that you talk about is so key as a leader, because we think we're at the top of our leadership game. And honestly, most of my clients are just getting started. It's so wild and so amazing to watch and be part of as they recognize like, oh my God, I've barely scratched the surface of what's possible for me. But now they're doing it from an aligned place. And now their achievements aren't based on them fighting for their worthiness. Their achievements are coming from this place of like deep fulfillment. And they're creating their lives based on how they really want to feel. So they have more peace and they have more ease. They don't feel the need to work around the clock. Because that's what stops people, right? They get to that level and they're like, I don't want to work anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
A
like
hundred
I,
percent.
I can see there. And it's that whole phrase, like, what got you here isn't going to be what gets you there.
Yep.
The things that made most of my clients incredibly successful, me as well, probably you as well, are the very things, are the very behaviors and traits and qualities about us that need to soften back.
Yeah.
We need to let go of, that we need to release our death grip on. But that requires that deep inner work and creating awareness around where did they come from in the first place? And most leaders have never questioned them because they've been a benefit to them,
Yeah.
but now they're a hindrance. So
Yeah. But you know what's interesting too, though, is you've gotten to a point where you being the leader, not you, not Lisa sitting across from me, but where we've gotten here also because we've become deep experts with years of
yeah,
experience doing hard work in our craft, whatever that craft is. And that experience becomes your new asset at this next level, but also releasing the need to be the craftsman necessarily. Right. And that's a whole nother identity shift, which I was telling you I really struggle with,
yeah,
is releasing that identity of being the person, in the weeds, doing those things. But that once you have these, you have this skill as an asset, you have the people and your company as another asset. Like you've created all these resources around yourself at this point in your life where now when you do make this shift into more alignment, like you were just talking about, like it's almost like, you're poised for a rocket ship of next step where it doesn't have to take as long as you're starting your whole life from scratch. It's like, no, 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 this is just the next phase of what you're
yeah,
doing and it's brand new. And also having that kind of beginner's mentality in a new direction where it's like, well, I'm X years old. Like when I start something new, I want to already be as good as a person who's been doing it for 25 years. It's like, oh, this is
right.
something new that you're working on.
It's stepping into that next place of like, how can I take everything I've already learned, everything I've already created, the things that I'm learning about myself, and how can this next phase, how can I do this with more ease? How can I do this in a completely radically different way than I've done it before? And as somebody who, I worked for many, many years, like I've been a coach for over 2 decades now, right? I'm not a spring chicken. But what I mean about creating more ease is like, for me, it's standing in the identity of who I am, who I work with, how I serve people, like unapologetically knowing, like, that 10,000 hours rule, like surpassed it,
Yeah.
right? Like, so no longer playing games with myself or getting into insecurities. And also saying, like, how can I allow this to be easier? And now, you and I were talking about AI coming in, and I joked and said, I don't think I'll ever need to create a new piece of content again, because you think about
You
the
have an
amount of
incredible catalog, which we'll send people to at lisacarpenter.ca for sure.
the videos, the transcripts, the years of coaching calls and intake forms, the amount of content that I can put into AI to support me in creating things moving forward with ease that are still in alignment, still my words, still my
Right.
content.
Yep.
This doesn't need to be hard, but
Right.
that hard work in the beginning was necessary. And for most of us,
Exactly.
it is.
Right.
But the identity that I'm moving forward with is like, oh, actually, the next expansion of my business, my growth, my wealth is going to come with so much more ease. And that's the way it's meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I love that. So I know we have lisacarpenter.ca where people can find that huge library of content you just talked about. And you also have an incredible private podcast that people can
Do.
go through that I heard that you worked with a genius strategist on putting it together. But
Well,
but
so let's
but
talk about that for a minute,
sure.
because
Yeah,
that's
let's do it.
creating with ease. So when I
Yeah.
worked with Todd, I was in a period of my life where, like I said, life was really lifing. And this private podcast, which is called Sustainably Strong, was born out of me creating very specific content to walk my audience through how I personally was navigating, without getting into the depths of what I was going through, but how I was personally navigating the content that I work with my clients on every single day. And what was so helpful in working with you was, you would just like, these are the topics that I need you to talk about, Lisa. Like, because you could see through all of my content, because I'm so in it, right? Like, I just live and breathe this. I'm like, it's just normal for me. What do you mean there's something special here? I've gotten over some of that. But you were able to just lay it out, and we were able to create this. I don't know how many episodes are in there, that really walks people through this conversation. And now we're working on a complimentary workbook to go with it so people can go deeper into their own work. But just so incredibly valuable. And that was something that was created with a lot of ease during a challenging time of my life
Mhm.
because I had support. And for so many leaders who have been, they're very resilient, they're very self sufficient, they pride themselves on being, that person, that ability to ask for help and be supported when you need support, which most of us need support most of the time. It made content creation so much easier in a time of my life where nothing really felt easy. So thank you for that. And now
Oh,
it's
well,
gone on
thank you.
to help hundreds. I don't know how many people we've had go through that.
Yeah,
So
and
thank
I
you
mean
a
that's
lot.
another, and I mean that's what I love helping people with, is getting their experience and expertise out into some kind of vehicle that is going to help more people. And while we always, I mean your, bravery, courage, those might be strong words for creating a podcast and making this content, but you going through the tough experiences of life just lifing you hard and being able to go through that process and document your journey on getting on going through those things, and what is it, what are the mistakes that are happening through this type of thing that you as a listener should be aware of so you can avoid them. And oh well, hey, when things come up, this is, it's okay, and here's how you can expect to feel. That's actually, I want to come back to that, being able to feel proper emotions, because I know you're
Wow.
strong on that.
Yeah.
But and walking people through, and that's kind of like how we did plan that, the whole series was to walk people through the experience for themselves to get them sustainably strong, right? Like that's ultimately what you ended up calling it. And so I highly suggest everybody go and check that out. And also I will say that, when you go to the page, it's going to say for women, and Lisa does speak to women, but don't be silly. This is for
I
everyone.
actually It is for everyone, and I actually do work with a lot of high-level men clients.
Yeah.
I just won't specifically, market to them on my
Right.
website because a lot of my clients come via referral. But I
Yeah,
love
and
I
and
love
and
working with men.
I'm speaking to our listeners and viewers now, but, like, don't be silly and brush this off if you're a guy. I've listened to it several times.
Yeah,
I listened to it with being produced. I listened to it after it came
yeah.
out, right? Like, and it is incredible, transformational content to go through. So do yourself a favor and sign up for that. lisacarpenter.ca/strong will take you there. But real quick, as a last thing for us to touch on
Well,
here, Lisa, is I know you have strong feelings about toxic positivity and
oh,
properly feeling your emotions. Can I just let you riff on that for a minute, please?
oh my goodness. So I'm a big believer in gratitude. I truly am. I think it is such a powerful way when anytime life is happening to us and we don't understand. I think that gratitude is such a powerful tool that we can use. However, there's so much talk about manifestation and keeping your vibe high and blah, blah, blah. And, when I was going through stuff, like I am on the other side now. And I can genuinely say I have such deep gratitude for the lessons that I learned. But when you asked me in the moment, I was not grateful for what was going on. And I didn't need to be grateful. I needed to allow myself to experience every emotion that I was going through, from anger, frustration, resentment, um, revenge, like you name it, it was all there. That's part of the human experience. And what I want your listeners to consider is that we can feel multiple emotions at the same time. We can feel anger and frustration and gratitude. But when we just skip to gratitude or toxic positivity, right? Like, I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. Like my clients use that fine with different inflections. I'm fine. I'm fine. Right. And, when we skip over what we're actually feeling, we miss the signs about deeper things that are available to be healed inside of us. And I'm not saying heal from like a broken place, but anything that's in you, any emotion that's in you is trying to serve as a guidepost to direct you to other things that you may want to learn about yourself. So when we flip into toxic positivity, it's like seeing somebody who has fallen off their bike, skinned their knee, banged their head, they're bleeding at the side of the road, and just looking at them and saying, "You'll be fine. Just You'll be fine. It's all going to be okay. And in all fairness to the Gen Xers like me, we were given that message a lot. That's why I
Just
think we
rub some
tend to
dirt on it.
go to like the toxic positivity, right? Because our feelings were never validated. We were told to just get up and get over it and move
Mhm.
on. We were told to suppress our emotions because our parents didn't have the emotional capacity to sit with us with a lot of compassion. You know, we parent very differently nowadays than we did back then. But this has bred this like toxic positivity, and people are getting stuck in it and they're robbing themselves because all you're doing is stuffing that stuff down. You're becoming emotionally constipated, and I guarantee you it will come out. And it's not a super fun experience. So
Yeah.
allow yourself permission to feel whatever you're feeling. It doesn't mean that you're a, you know, people say, oh, I'm not an angry person. I'm like, nobody's an angry person, but we all feel anger.
Yeah.
We all feel love. We
And it's
all feel
okay.
emotion, and it's
And
okay.
if you
Like,
don't
work through
process
them.
those things, like you said, they're just going to get stuck. And I think, a big thing that got overlooked in a lot of the people who do that, who are into the whole positivity, high vibes all the time type of stuff is that you need to process these emotions to be able to release them. And there's a difference between
Right.
repressing your emotions and releasing your emotions. And if you just repress them, there's a volcano that's going to erupt one day.
You could practice high vibe till the cows come home. The universe speaks in energy, not to be too woo, right?
Yeah.
If it's in you, it's going to it that vibration is in you. This is why so many people are stuck in their businesses because they're being all high vibe, not even recognizing they're operating from deep places of shame. So if we go back to what we talked about around control and chasing achievement and pleasing, most of those things are rooted in deep feelings of shame and I'm not good enough.
I
Those
think that's
feelings are in you.
Yeah, that unworthiness, right? Or not
Right.
worthy enough yet. I actually had a call this morning with one of my clients talking about that same thing where they were coming, started talking about a new thing they were doing and he starts, trying to justify the value of why he's doing this new thing. And I'm like, dude, you've been doing this for like 15 years.
Well,
It's like this has new wrapping paper, but you're not a newbie. But I could
yeah.
tell and like I lean much more onto the business side of things than the personal development side of things, but it's all intertwined. And I just happen to have experience as a personal development,
Right.
person. And I'm like, I can recognize and I see right through it. And I'm like, this is a worthiness issue where they
Correct.
don't feel worthy for this yet.
That's
And this
right.
is not, this is not a business strategy because I'm like, I'll give it to you very quickly too. But unless you feel worthy enough for this and that, if you value your value,
Yeah.
then it's not gonna, have the success and impact that it could
Well,
potentially.
and that you can't high vibe and positivity yourself past that. I know
Right.
because I spent 10 years hustling and grinding,
Yeah.
being high vibe and trying to be positive about everything. But it was like I had an anchor of shame around me.
Mm.
So no amount of high vibe was going to balance that out. That emotion needed to come up and I needed to work through those parts of me that just didn't feel good enough and didn't feel worthy of having what I had. And that's what I mean around that self leadership. You you are the thing that is preventing you from getting to where you want to go. Even at high levels of success, there is more available for you. Like, is that isn't like, a carrot on a string there. There is more available for you with more ease, with more fulfillment, with more peace, with more joy when you're willing to do the deep dive into yourself and see what is driving you at your core and find your values. So that's a lot, Todd.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm so grateful for you to be here. And guys, please go to lisacarpenter.ca/strong to sign up for her. It's free too, right?
Yeah,
I mean, come on, all right.
it's my
There's no
it's a private podcast,
Yep.
so you're gonna opt in, and we're gonna have a conversation, you're gonna become part of my community.
Yeah.
I do have a full, like, on Apple or
Yeah, regular
Spotify,
podcast,
wherever.
which guys go check that
Yeah,
out too. But
yeah.
it's a no-brainer to go sign up for the Sustainably Strong private podcast. Please, it will help you tremendously, especially if you dug today's conversation. And it just if this gave you something valuable, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss any other episodes. That's at thegrowthsuite.com/leader. And all the episodes will be there to dive into different topics like this to help you be a better leader. Make sure you're connected with Lisa at lisacarpenter.ca/strong to get on her list. And she's also active on Instagram as of now, where she's very just, I love the lo-fi connection content that you put out there. Of course, there's like her podcast clips and stuff too, but she's in her stories giving real life lessons on a daily basis with great insights. She has also wears a great Impact Maker sweatshirt. I don't know where you got that. It's
I was
phenomenal.
wearing it this morning. I'm wearing it this morning.
But
Love it.
thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you found this valuable, two quick things. Make sure you are following Lisa and make sure you're subscribed to the show at thegrowthsuite.com/leader. And I'm Todd Genatasio. Until next time, think clearly, make educated decisions, and lead with confidence.
Thanks, Todd.